Amy, if you could call the roll, please.
Sure. Mr. Siebold is absent today. Ms. King?
Present.
Mr. Dawson?
Present.
Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Ms. Gungeon?
Present.
Okay.
All right, we'll move to the approval of the June 13th meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second. Johnson.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are going to adjourn for a brief executive session, and we'll be back. Thank you for your patience. Amy, if you could read the first appeal, please.
Okay. Appeal number 12290 by Jessica and Andrew Brown. This is on behalf of Joseph and Darlene Fosco concerning a property located at 1405 West 21st Street with an index number of 19-6248-100. It's located in an M1 light manufacturing district, and the appellant is requesting a use variance for a daycare facility. Per section 204.19, daycare center is not a permitted use. If the Browns want to come up and present. And you'll need to state your full names and be sworn in. And your addresses too. Oh, right over here.
Podium. Will you both be speaking?
I'll be mostly in support. Just
Okay.
in case.
If you're speaking, please raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
Yeah.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Jessica Brown, Jessica. Brown is Brown.
And your address as well, Jessica?
64 Main Street, Lewis Run, PA.
Thank you.
Go ahead, here we go.
We believe that the board should approve this request use variance approval from an M1 light manufacturing to a childcare for the location of 1405 West 21st Street in Erie, PA. We have learned that there is a dire need for childcare and preschools in the Erie community. This location offers a safe and secure building with a neighborhood suited for our program. Preschool and childcare services are vitally important in today's fast-paced dual-income world. As an increasing number of families have become dependent on two incomes, the need for quality preschool and childcare has skyrocketed. ABC Grow With Me Childcare and Preschool will fill this void for a high-quality facility in the community. Talking to many businesses in the area as well as other childcare centers who all have waiting lists, many employers are being held off of starting employees until childcare is lined up. This can take weeks or even months, affecting employment and economic growth. According to the 2022 census of PA, 57% of working parents live in an area where children under the age of 5 contains little to no children. This means that there's 3 times as many children without a licensed childcare slot. Being located next to an industrial area with a light and medium residential area, we hope to provide this much-needed resource close to the homes and workplaces of these families. We can provide not only a safe and secure location for these young students, but also high-quality, family-oriented childcare in a safe, loving, and nurturing environment, where we promote social, emotional, physical, cognitive, and educational development. We are going to expand our current childcare and preschool to a second location here in Erie. ABC Grow With Me Childcare and Preschool in Bradford, PA is a 4-star Keystone Stars accredited program that teaches from a state-approved curriculum for infants, toddlers, early learners, preschools, and school-age children. We also use a platform that allows constant updates for the parents, which is unique to this industry, about the child's day, pictures, learning indicators, meal times, activities, behaviors, and etc. We are also in recognition of the community for we are recognized in our community for the readiness of our students when they are introduced to the primary education into the public school system in Bradford. We are excited to implement a sister center here in Erie with policies, procedures, and missions just like ours. ABC believes in the importance of community, which means partnering with community resources agencies in Erie, such as the Erie County Redevelopment Center, Gannon, CareerLink, local high schools, Chamber of Commerce, just to name a few. We also know the importance of early education and value that it holds in developing social and emotional skills, having the students become equipped for the adaptation and transition into the school setting. We have a kindergarten readiness program that builds on the skills and child development domains and everything that comes with early education and child development as a whole.
Any questions from the board for Jessica?
So, Ms. Brown, is the building currently vacant?
You can answer that one better than I can.
It has the option to help another small business you'd use some of the property, but it technically, yes, right now it's vacant.
Okay.
We're in the process of purchasing the building.
Okay. Do you know how long it has been vacant?
That information I don't know. We don't know.
And what type of manufacturing is immediately adjacent to the building?
I know there's an industrial park across the street, but as far as right next to the building, it's a baseball field in a residential neighborhood, so no direct manufacturing next to the building. There might be like an auto shop, like a small mechanic shop next to it, but nothing like majorly industrial.
Okay, thank you.
Who will be operating the facility?
We already have the management team set up. So I would be owner along with Andy, and then we would have a childcare director, and then we also have a management team that's like our quality control management team, a mixture of Erie residents and Bradford residents. The Bradford employees would be from our location that we have trained for the last 5 years to make sure our policies and procedures are up to the standard of ABC.
Okay, so, but will they be living here in Erie, or they'll be commuting from Bradford?
It'd be a mixture of both, yes. Myself and the management team in Bradford would be commuting. However, there would be Erie residents primarily.
And how large of a staff will you have?
According to the business plan we have set up with the size of the location, we'd have 15 childcare staff, which involves lead teachers for each of the classrooms. There would be 3 aides, and then a childcare center director and an assistant.
Okay. And then what's your child to staff ratio?
In the state of Pennsylvania, it varies by age. So infants would be 1 to 4, and it goes all the way up to preschool is 1 to 10. However, ABC's model does not follow the minimum ratios. We always go less than, just for quality purposes. For instance, in our nursery, its a ratio would be 1 to 8. It would be 2 to 8, and we only do 2 to 6. Same thing with our preschool program. It would be 2 to 20, and we only do 2 to 16. Quality is a little bit more important to us than the numbers of the children.
Question for Jake or others. Does this require occupancy? Or make a change?
Yes, the building code would have to be brought up to be inspected by the building inspector. That is correct.
As well as the Department of Human Services, where we would be licensed by.
Any further questions for either? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this request? Please. Please state your name and address, and then turn to be sworn in.
Joseph Herbert, and do you want my home address or office?
Home address.
Home address 6006 Marble Lane, Fairview 16415.
Thank you.
And
And you,
I'm
sir?
the realtor for the property.
Joseph Fosco, 3515 Raspberry.
Okay, if you could both be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm the owner of the building. It is occupied. Right now, we are currently there. What we do there is tool and die polishing. It's the finest for plastic injection molds. I could sit where you're sitting right now with a microscope and polish syringes for needles. The tool shop send me the material, and we polish it. So what we do has to be so very fine and clean. The building is just immaculate. It's all carpeted. It's been completely redone within the last 10 years, gutted down to the studs. electrical, air conditioning, furnaces, everything, top notch.
How large is the building?
Excuse me?
How large is the building?
5,500 square foot. When I redid it, we put a kitchen in for the employees, a handicap bathroom. Everything's new, right up to the roof. The roof's not even 10 years old, rubber roof, brand new. So, just thought I'd let you know that.
Yeah, all the electrical in the building is brand new. New service, all new wiring was pulled, all the walls are new drywall, all the flooring's new drop ceilings. The entire building is on grade. There's no ADA issues. There's a real nice front entrance from 21st Street, or you can access the building from Burst. So both, you can come in and park from both streets. All the plumbing is PEX. All the HVAC is new.
Parking's what, 28?
What was the building, is this an older building? What's the age of the building?
I can tell you, hold on. Also, all the doors were brand new metal fire-rated doors with the panic hardware, the closures, the emergency signs, and all the emergency lights. Everything is up to code. I can tell you the age of the building here. It was built in, where is that? 1958.
But when I bought it, for what
What year was that?
What's that?
What year was that?
You bought it.
When did you buy it?
10 years ago? What, 10 years ago? 2011, 12?
Okay.
But for the work that we did, it had to be almost like the booties on your feet, masks, you know, for that kind of application that we did for the pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like any grease or stuff flying. It was,
Yeah, if you went in the building, like if somebody wanted to buy it for office space, there would be nothing to do. It's that level of quality. It's really nice.
So, just as a practical question then, why are you selling it, and why are you not selling it for office space? Why are you not selling it for a permitted use?
Let me answer that. Well, it's for sale for whoever would want to buy it, and based on the condition and the layout and the size, it could be anything. It could have been retail, but again, we're here because we need the variance for the buyer's use. But it was listed on the MLS under commercial, and a contractor could have bought it. In fact, we had what's his name? He had it under agreement for the magistrate judge.
oh,
It was under agreement, and it was contingent on one of the magistrate judges approving the location because they were going to move their office there, and they didn't like the location. But again, it's that kind of quality of space. It could have easily been used for that.
yeah, Mr. Beveridge.
Yeah.
District Justice Beveridge.
Steve Lewis was the contractor
That's
that
it.
had it under agreement. So to answer your question, I mean, you know, because of the type of building, it could be used for so many things, but it has the M1 zoning.
Right. And what I'm trying to ask questions for is to see if there's, of course, you know, coming in for a variance, there are certain things that we're supposed to look at, right? There's certain criteria that we're supposed to look at, and one is whether or not there is a hardship for approving or for the building being used as it is presently zoned. Okay? Because you're asking us to, this board doesn't set, we don't make the zoning maps. City council does that. We're just supposed to enforce them. Okay? So if we're going to vary from them, if we're going to grant a variance, then we're supposed to meet certain criteria. So I'm trying to figure out whether or not there is something that would make it appropriate to grant a use variance. Okay? So, for example, what's the school that we just did the...
Irving School.
Okay, the Irving School, okay. You've got the old school building. Now, self-storage is not an approved use for that zone. They came in and they asked for a use variance, and that use variance was granted in part because the city school district had been trying to sell that parcel for years and had been unsuccessful in doing so. Couldn't find somebody that was going to come in and do something with it that wasn't going to involve either tearing it down at massive cost and then subdividing everything for more houses, or having an old age center go in there, the senior apartments, things like that, because nobody else was coming in to buy the building or buy the property for a use that was permitted in that zone. So a use variance was granted, right? I'm trying to get a sense for the board of what the argument is here for the variance, other than the fact that you want to sell it to these people. What is the basis for the variance?
And that makes total sense. I think I doubt if anybody will ever use this building for manufacturing again. Because if you came in and saw how it's been updated, all the buyers are going to be, if you go online and look at my photos, all the buyers are going to be somebody that wants a variance. It's going to be office, a gym, a dance studio, because it's just such a pristine property now.
Yep. How long has it been listed?
It went under agreement on June 9th.
Okay.
And what was it zoned before because I had to have a hearing,
Oh, I don't know.
wasn't it?
No, it's zoned M1.
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah.
And prior to this contract, how long was it on the MLS?
It went under agreement with Mr. Lewis, I'd say within 3 weeks. And then it took him about 4 weeks to get the magistrate judge there to look at it. And the judge didn't like that location for his office, and he had a contingency in the agreement, so he was able to terminate the agreement. And then I would say within maybe another 3 weeks, these folks put it under agreement.
So 2.5, 3 months?
Yes.
Okay. A question for Amy or Jake. Was this zoned differently in the past?
I've pulled your record, and that is everything that I had in the record. If Jake could scroll back through. We give you the plot plan. There was nothing relevant to that.
Okay.
The only thing I can note is that there is a significant amount of R districts surrounding this property. R1, R2, and I tried to show that with that color scheme, if you could tell. I'm sorry, T1 in the old zoning. So T1 was a replica of RLB for the most part. Is that correct, Jake? Yeah, it replicated RLB at one time.
Would RLB have allowed would RLB allow for a daycare center?
I do believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was office space when I bought it.
Yep.
Oh, that's probably why.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot that was on there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this request? Anyone to speak in favor? Amy, is there anyone online?
Oh, we got one coming up.
Okay. No problem. Please state your name and address and then be sworn in. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. I'm Chris Groner, Vice President of Capital Finance and Lending for the Erie County Redevelopment Authority, 1314 Griswold Plaza, Erie, PA 16501.
Please, can you state your spell your last name for me?
Groner.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand for me to be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Board. I'll be very brief. A lot of the points were already hit on the benefits of increasing capacity for childcare. This is a serious workforce development issue that I see all the time. There are a lot of folks who are not able to get that childcare option. Most centers, all centers that I'm aware of, have waiting lists. And so there are a lot of folks who are not able to return back to the office, return back to the production floor because they don't have these options available right now. So that is why, through the economic development lens, we see this as workforce development related, and that's why the Erie County Redevelopment Authority is looking to assist the Browns on this project because it's a critical component to economic development. Also working with multiple industrial projects over the years. I can tell you that 5,000 feet or 5,500 square feet, that would be tough to fill with the manufacturer, any type of industrial use. That's really on the small end. Most manufacturers are looking for much larger footprints than that. So for a whole host of reasons, it seems to make sense in this transitional area that this be allowed to be used for that use. There's definitely demand out there for that service, and hopefully we'll be able to increase that capacity. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Probably not.
Laura, if I may, just to reiterate on building code, that will have to have architectural drawings to permit for daycare, just to reiterate what Ed was saying. So all of that stuff will have to go through our permitting process to get that occupancy permit originally. So granted that the building is in great condition, it also has to be set up for daycare use. So just to make sure you guys are aware of that.
Thank you. There was one further question for Jessica.
I'm sorry, Jessica, what will the hours of operation be?
6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and in our Bradford location, we open an hour before and an hour after for extended services.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Please. State your name and address and then be sworn in.
Marissa, M-A-R-I-S-A, Pavlov, P-A-V-L-O-V. Address is 2504 West 37th Street, Erie, PA 16506.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I represent the Browns in this transaction. I just wanted to give you a little background. We've been looking for a very long time. They had specific square footage they wanted to provide the best care and to have as many classrooms as they have in the other facilities that they have in Bradford. So we did look, and there was nothing really over the 3,500 mark in a price range that was reasonable to also not have to increase prices for when they would open a daycare. So this actually, with the 5,500 square foot, they can do a lot with that space and have as many daycare, as many classrooms as they wanted to begin with. And the other places we looked at were not nice. They would have had to start from scratch. This building is so brand new. It has the kitchen, which is something they need. It has the refrigerator, which is something they need. It has a couple offices, which is something they need. It has a big space that they can divide and use as classrooms. So there was just a lot. It just checked off the box of things that we were looking for and they were looking for to provide the best daycare that they could. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of information that we did look for a long time. I bet it was over 6 to 8 months for that specific reason. So
Thank you.
that's it. Thank you.
All right.
Amy, did you say that the property was originally zoned T1?
That's correct, Jeff.
And then that changed over to RLB? And
That is a replica of our
Had
OB.
it been T1 or RLB, it would be acceptable for a daycare.
That's correct.
When did it get changed to manufacturing?
I'm assuming with the last map change, as you could see, that little section of auto repair, tool making, that was a manufacturing little section right before the baseball field, which is R1.
So are you saying that Brenda Sandberg, when she was here, or Ron Desser, when they rewrote zoning ordinance, did they change it?
I would assume so at this point.
We
I don't have any
don't have any other
documents.
appeals through the years.
I
on
do
it.
not.
Okay.
Now, that was the one thing I was looking for, is how did we get to this point?
So it would have been
There was no
acceptable
appeals.
back then, but it's not now.
Correct,
It's a different
correct.
zoning change.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Herbert?
The sellers
Why don't you come up, Joe? I can't hear you.
Mr. Fosco told me that when he bought the building, they had it changed because they were going to put that polishing business in there. And that was around 2011.
2011?
2011.
How about if I look for some extra records just in case to throw that in, but at this point, it is not sitting in our record at this time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in favor? Okay. Anyone here opposed to this request? Anyone opposed? Anyone online? No? Okay. Anyone opposed? All right. One item of housekeeping. We are going to hear all of the appeals today, and then we'll take a brief executive session, and then we'll come back for the vote. So moving on to the next appeal, I do need to recuse myself relative to my employer, so I'm going to hand the gavel to Mr. Johnson.
Amy, you ready?
I am ready. Mr. Kidder, if you want to come on up. Okay, we have appeal number 12291 by Jeff Kidder. This is concerning a property located at 420 West 6th Street. Index is 17-4020-124, located in an RLB residential limited business district. The appellant is requesting a dimensional variance for an eating and drinking establishment. I need to put a little bit of a slash in there. It's a little bit of a dimensional, a little bit of a use. So I'll explain that in a second. This is for an eating and drinking establishment. Per section 305.25, in RLB districts, total commercial use shall not exceed 5,000 square feet in floor area and shall not have alcoholic beverages in the establishment. The appellant is requesting a proposed 720 square feet and a full-service restaurant with a liquor license. So we have a two-part, a little bit of a dimensional, a little bit of a use.
7,020 feet?
7,250
250.
square
I
feet.
think you said 700.
Did I? I apologize.
All right, I have a question. We have a lot of people here today. If you're here for this ordinance, for this appeal, I'd like you to stand up. And do you that are standing plan on speaking? If you do, I'm going to get you all sworn in right now rather than go through 12.
You don't have to do it one at a time.
No, yeah, you can raise your right hand and stand right
stay right where you are.
You too as well. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
I do.
Thank you, and it's very important that you state and spell your name for the record before you begin speaking, and also provide an address for me, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kidder?
Yes, my name is Jeff Kidder, Jeffkidder. Do you prefer office or home address? 502 Seminole Drive, Erie, PA 16505. I'm Jeff Kidder with Kidder Architects. I'm here on behalf of Reed 420 LLC, who is the owner of 420 West 6th Street. Historically, this property had a mansion home, single family, constructed on in the 1850s. The Reed family occupied the home until about 1952, when it was purchased by the Erie County Motor Association, Motor Club, to become an office. And they used the building until 1970, when they tore the mansion down and built the current building, office building that is there now. And they remained there until 2005, when United Way purchased the property and AAA moved up to by 90 and Peach. And then 2020, United Way decided to, they moved over the old Wayne School building and put the property up for sale. Reed 420 LLC purchased the property that is managed by Tom Hagen as one of his properties in his effort along West 6th Street, with the intention of acquiring the property, controlling it, and then eventually renovating it. The property, and there were no plans at the time. In the meantime, my office, Kidder Architects, and our construction company, Kidder Jeffries Construction, and Jeffries Engineering have moved our offices there temporarily about a year and a half ago. We will be moving out of the building this October to a building at 502 West 6th Street, right down the street that we're renovating now. So the building is available. Over the last 3 years, we've been looking at multiple options for the property, including tearing the building down, redeveloping the property, renovating the property, adding on to it the building, and our current highest and best use that we feel right now is to lease it to Red Letter Hospitality as a eating and drinking establishment or a restaurant. The term restaurant is not in the zoning ordinance, but eating and drinking establishment is. This area is zoned RLB, residential limited business. Eating and drinking establishments are a permitted use in this district, and with the limitation of a maximum size of 5,000 square feet. The current building is 6,500 square feet. The request is for 7,250 because of some of our schematic designs for the building involves a few small additions. We're going to put basically a new front on the building. If you know what the building looks like, it's a 1970 office building. It has never fit into the neighborhood architecturally. The 6 blocks of 6th Street were designated a National Register Historic District in 1982, and all the efforts on our team's part so far has been to renovate and restore the historic buildings. So we have an opportunity here with a newer construction building to redesign the front of it to fit in better with the neighborhood. So that's the request for 7,250 square feet. The second part of our request is pertaining to the sale of alcohol. And I'm going to have Billy Lewis here explain a little bit more about the restaurant idea, but it is a restaurant primarily and not a bar, but part of a full-service restaurant is the opportunity to serve alcohol and would have a liquor license. And I'm going to have Billy Lewis here from Red Letter talk a little bit more about the idea of a restaurant.
So Billy Lewis, BILLYLEWIS, 110 Sunset Beach Road, Northeast. So thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so we own the Cork, if anybody's familiar with the Cork out in the West Erie Plaza. Just to give square footage and some seat kind of count, that with the outside patio that we have is close to 10,000 square feet. The actual inside's 8,000. We have all in close to 300 seats. It's like 285 seats at the Cork. This location being the slightly smaller, we're looking at a capacity somewhere in about 150 seats is what we are looking at. Again, we are primarily a food-centric restaurant group. We're anticipating it to be Italian-style, Mediterranean-ish type of cuisine. Our hours of operation, we're planning on a 7-day operation. Our hours would probably be very close or exactly similar to the Cork, which Monday through Thursday is 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then on Friday, Saturday, we would close at 10.
10, did you say?
Yeah, 10. So that's, any other questions on the restaurant?
Is that typically what goes on in that neighborhood? Operating a business at 9, 10 o'clock at night?
In that neighborhood?
Yes.
I'm not sure that there is any restaurants in the neighborhood currently, but I would expect that if, the restaurant typically would end around 9 o'clock on a weekday night.
Maybe that's better. Are there any other businesses operating around? Are you familiar with the area?
I am familiar with the area as well.
Good.
Yes.
So, are you familiar with any other businesses operating around that time in that area?
I'm not.
I mean, previously there was Sophia's Bar at 516 Cherry, which operated until 2 a.m., and they closed during the pandemic, so that would be the closest property that would have operated longer hours than that. But again, drinking and eating establishments are allowed in RLB, and if there hadn't been a full-service restaurant prior in RLB, it doesn't, there's no history, but it is allowed.
Thank you.
How much parking do you have there?
90 spaces.
And I noticed a gate on 5th Street.
Yes.
Would that be open?
It could be. It could be open.
I would think that during business hours, it would be wise
Sure.
to have it open where it just isn't all on 6th Street, the traffic coming in and out, you know?
Yes.
There was a daycare or something there before, wasn't there?
Early Connections was there when United Way was there, yes, but they moved out at the same time when the property was sold.
Anybody have any questions?
Jeff, I was just going to ask real quickly, reading some of the letters and emails of support that came in on this one, thought I saw a mention with regard to the number of owner-occupied buildings along that stretch of 6th Street right there. Am I correct in saying that there are only 1 or 2 actual owner-occupied residences there?
There's 3 in the 300 block, and then there's several in the 500 block, and there's 1 in the 400 block, and the 600 block is where Gardner Court is all owner occupied. So there's a mix.
Okay, and then there are a number of businesses there as well, law firms.
Yes. The Erie County Bar is across the street, Erie County Community Foundation is across the street. There's multiple attorneys' offices.
The properties on West 5th Street that, and I see the lot is kind of an odd shape, because it does have the areas that run from 6th Street all the way down to 5th Street, where it looks like there's additional parking. Are those residential properties that are next door to or adjacent to what would be that kind of dual parking lot extension there?
On 5th Street, so historically the property did go through to 5th Street, and that part that sticks out was where the carriage house was for the Reed Mansion. But the 2 houses to the left of that are single family. The next one is a rental apartment, and then there's 2 vacant lots, and then there's 2 more apartment buildings. So there is a mix of single family and apartments on the 5th Street side.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
On that 5th Street side, is there a drug rehabilitation program?
Gadenzia is in the former school on the north side of 5th Street.
Right in back of where the...
Right, north of the property, yes. Yes.
Any other questions from the board? Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this variance? If you want to come up to the podium, give us your name and address. And if we've heard it once, we don't need to hear the same spiel 10 times. Okay?
Jeff, I have one that came in by email. Would you like that before or after? I want to give one.
After.
After, okay.
Good afternoon, members of the Zoning Hearing Board. My name is Gary Kanonczyk, K-A-N-O-N-C-Z-Y-K. I've resided at 226 Seminole for about the last 35 years. My perspective in hoping that the variance is granted is one that is truly amazed at what Mike Glass and Mike Jeffries and Jeff Kidder on behalf of Tom Hagen have accomplished in the neighborhood. I've been down there with my family little bit north of there, renovating old buildings and new apartments, West 5th, 4th to 5th and Chestnut, 5th and Cherry, in the neighborhood of Sophie's. And this entity, the Tom's entities in conjunction with EDC, Erie Downtown, and our West Bayfront have truly been transformational. 25 years ago when I started and tried to rent a above average apartment, as we have, and today, and back then, people would hang up the phone. They have changed the vision of the possibility of living in an apartment and occasionally actually moving as a residency in Northwest Erie. And I'm sure you've seen them to drive by. If you haven't, get out of your car and walk around them. You'll be amazed. The other point is the collateral investment they've created between 5th and 4th and 3rd and the other streets. Yes, the Bluff is finally, amazingly so. How could it take so long for the Bluff to actually be what it is today, with people buying, improving, demoing old buildings, rebuilding? The Bluff is now the north border. 6th Street is the sort of the natural south border. In the middle is filling in. Seemingly an impossible positive thing is happening in our West Bayfront, and what Tom Hagen and these guys are doing is part of it. I'm sure that many of our tenants would be happy to partake in what I'll call the missing ingredient of a great restaurant bar in downtown West 6th Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of this variance?
Hello, Board. Pardon me?
You need to be sworn.
No, I was sworn in with the group.
Bunch, I didn't see you there.
I was hiding. My name is Erica, Erika, Ramalho, Ramalho. The address is Gannon University, 140 West 6th Street, Erie, PA, 16541. So I'm here today on behalf of Gannon University. We do also own property across the street from the parcel being discussed. And we're here to express the support for the continued investment of historic Erie renovations, the preservation of Erie, and we appreciate the economic impact of these continued investments.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
We'll just keep the parade of people coming.
Caleb Pfeiffer, CALEB, representing the History Center at 356 West 6th Street. The History Center has been the beneficiary of this board's variances going back the last 10 years. You all have helped us create one of the preeminent tourist attractions in Northwest Pennsylvania. We draw people now internationally. Just a few weeks ago, we actually hosted a tour group from Australia, which never happened before. Anything that's been additive to the street, particularly this restaurant, is a buoy to our museum and to all of the efforts that are taking place. There's really nothing that would take place as well at the restaurant that's not already happening at our facility. So that actually answer your question on the end about what's already taking place in the neighborhood. We're having weddings, special events to the time that they're opening, almost every Friday and Saturday throughout the season, walking tours of 600 people. So unless Billy's planning on shooting off fireworks from his restaurant, it's probably already taking place from the History Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak in favor of? Mr. Schultz?
Hi. My name is Robert Schultz, and I live at 317 West 6th Street. So I'm exactly 1 block away from where they're proposing to put a restaurant. I bought my home 31 years ago, and we've used it for a number of different things. We've used it to publish the Erie Chautauqua magazine. Another business of mine is Arthur F. Schultz, and we use it for the promotional efforts there. In addition to that, we do the Erie Fine Dining program, and we do the same program in Phoenix, Arizona. And we do all of that from that area. In 2011, my wife and I decided to move into the home. So we did some of the work that I just described to you, but we also used it as a residence. And I have to tell you that the personality of what's going on 6th Street has to do with diversification. If I look at our neighborhood as starting at the park and going over to Poplar Street. That's West 6th Street. And if you take a look at what's represented along there, you were talking about, is there anything similar? Sure there is. There's the Erie Club. And the Erie Club is open until 10 o'clock at night, and the Erie Club is open sometimes 7 days a week, always 6 days a week. And I don't see a disturbance at all being created from that. I am 100% in favor of going along with what they're asking. The reason for that is I'm interested in the momentum of the community. And the momentum of the community is determined by opportunity. And the opportunity to have Tom Hagen and Billy Lewis work together and put something that we all benefit on 6th Street is something that I think is very, very important across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Anybody else to speak in favor of? Anybody else speak in favor of? Anybody else to speak in favor of? Is there anyone here to oppose the variance? Is there anyone here to oppose the variance? Is there anyone here to oppose the variance? Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay.
Mr. Johnson, I'm just going to give you guys one more letter of support. That would make a total of 5 that you would receive.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll hand the gavel back to you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to the next appeal, Amy.
Sure. Okay. Okay, we have appeal number 12292. This is by John DeWalt. This is concerning a property located at 546 Lincoln Street, index 17-4119-100, located in an R1 low-density residential neighborhood. The appellant is requesting a use variance for a two-family dwelling. Per section 204.10, two-family dwelling is not a permitted use. Mr. DeWalt?
Please state your name and address and then be sworn in.
John DeWalt, 1560 Taylor Ridge Court, Erie, PA.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I was feeding the meter. My name is Kurt Mitchell, KURTMITCHELL, 475 Central Avenue, Suite 400H, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33701. I represent Mr. DeWalt in this matter. And with the board's indulgence, I would just like to set the background, and then I'll allow my client to testify.
You speak up a little bit, please.
I'm sorry. I'll just set the background of this matter. When the evidence of this case is going to show that it's on all fours with an appeal that was granted recently by this board. The appeal number is 12278. It was by Michael Agresti concerning a property located at 213 East 28th Street. In that particular matter, the board voted 4-0 to approve the variance. And some of the important factors that the board considered was that the The home located at 213 East 28th had always been a two-family unit, that there were separate utilities, that there were separate living areas, and that the use of the two-family predated the zoning of it being single-family residential. And then finally, attempting to configure the property as a one-family dwelling would create an unnecessarily hardship. That's what the board found in that particular case. In this matter, may I approach? Sure. What I've handed to the board there is a directory from 1958 with the highlighted two addresses that the home had in 1958. One is a residence, the other was an office location. My client will be able to testify in depth about that. What I also handed the board were several pictures that show the two entrances to the building, the separate metered utilities of the building, and then the multiple kitchens in the living spaces. My client will also testify that there are at least 14 other 2 units within a maximum of 1,500 feet from his address. He has those addresses and those distances there. So granting this use variance would not alter the characteristics of the neighborhood. It's a mixed neighborhood, single family with 2 units. And then we would also argue that this is a pre-existing non-conforming use. My client, again, will be able to testify that as far as he has known the building, it has always been used as a 2-unit. It's never been altered from that original construction of having multiple utilities and multiple living units. And if the board has no questions for me, I will allow my client to testify.
Good morning. Do you guys have any questions for me so far?
Is this property on a corner?
Yes, it is a corner, 1704 West 6th Street and 546 Lincoln.
Lincoln Avenue.
How long have you owned the building?
Since, I just wrote that down, 2019, February.
Were you licensed as a 2-unit rental?
That's been debated, and that's why I'm here. It was never a single-family home. It was always 2-family. I inherited the property, so I was born into that house, and my father owned it. It was a 2-family. It was a 2-family before he bought it. There was even several different businesses in the upstairs, and to me, according to the zoning and everything else, nothing changed.
But I mean, have you been renting the property out? Yes.
Pardon me?
You rent one of the units out?
Currently, I'm kind of waiting. My son lives there and my niece lives there.
Ed, I can answer your question. It is not in the rental program registered at this time.
Was it ever?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. DeWall, could you explain how you came before the board today? What was the impetus to file the variance request?
I can.
Sure.
Yeah. My client applied for and obtained electrical permits to do some electrical work. He started to upgrade the services there. The city intervened, put in a stop work order. I reached out to the city on numerous occasions. Mr. Zimmerman was not receptive. At some point, I apologize, I forget her name, from the zoning applications, reached out and said, why don't you go through the zoning process? So that's why we started this process. We would clearly state, though, that this is a non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming use, and it should not be necessary to rezone it. But to the extent that a variance is required, it should be granted, given the nature of the property, given this board's opinion just recently regarding the East 28th property, and the fact that the neighborhood is mixed. I would also say that the fact that it wasn't, I'm not quite familiar with the city's rental program. I'm assuming that's some sort of licensing that's required. The fact that it was in there or not in there, I don't think affects one way or the other. Certainly my client would abide by all laws, and the fact is at this point he's being stopped from renting the property due to the stop work order and the interference with getting the service turned on there.
Mr. DeWalt, when was the last time you resided in the property?
Boy, now you're making me think because I'm getting old.
Betting you're not older than me.
I'd have to do some math. Approximately 1980, 81.
Okay. Who occupied the property from 1981 until you acquired it in 2019?
My mother and father.
Okay. When was the last time that there were two families residing in that property?
Boy, oh boy. I want to say somewhere around 1981 when I moved out, when I was 18 or 19, because my father had a tenant, two tenants, while I was growing up. I was the last child, I'm the youngest, so when the other siblings left, he went back and started re-renting the other unit.
Okay. If you would, give us an idea of the inside of the building, right? If there are two residences, I read here in the narrative that at one point in time there were four exterior doors. How many doors are there presently?
Still the same. None of that's changed.
Okay.
The original brickwork, you can see that there was four exterior doors in the original brick.
But if I walk around the outside of the house, how many doors am I going to see?
You're going to see three, unless you peek through a window, and you're going to see the fourth.
Okay. Do those lead to separate parts of the building? In other words, are there two distinct living units in the building?
Yes.
Okay. If I am, are they upstairs, downstairs?
Yes.
Okay. If I'm in the downstairs, how do I get to the upstairs?
Right now, there would be two different ways. You could go outside and go around into one of the other doors, or through an interior door.
Okay. How long has that interior door been there? Has it always been there?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. The exterior doors. You said in order to see the fourth door, I'd have to look through a window, right? If you were to be allowed to use this as a two-family unit, what are your plans for that ingress and egress? Are you going to open up that fourth door again?
No, the only thing I might do is block off or lock the interior door, possibly, because the other doors are sufficient enough for two families to live there without using that fourth door.
That wouldn't create a code issue?
No.
For ingress and egress?
No. It's
the way it's laid out, it's...
In other words, there's a common staircase that is accessible from the first floor and the second floor with an exterior door?
Yes, and that could be easily changed if somebody wanted to.
Two other exterior doors, correct? One for the down unit, one for the up?
Yes. Okay. The one exterior door could be even called a common exterior door, because you could not use the interior permanent door that's been there forever, and the Lincoln side, both families could access that exterior door, just the way the house is laid out. So that fourth door is kind of irrelevant. Maybe that's why they put a little sun porch around it.
So if I'm looking at the screen, which you probably may or may not be able to see, I see 2 doors in the rear on the 6th Street side. One that has stairs and one that looks like it's just a walk-up. Those are the 2 that we're talking about, correct?
Two of them, yeah.
Okay. Jake, if you could go around to the front of the house.
If you want to hold that picture, right inside that little sunroom.
Oh, I see.
Is a door, and the brickwork is in there, because that was the exterior of the home. At some point, somebody put a small little, there's no basement or anything, kind of like a sun porch type of a thing that's not really used all year, because it's not insulated or anything. It's just, but that's hiding that other exterior door.
Okay. My question early on pertains to, you said that it was always a 2-unit building.
Correct.
And when asked what 2 units were in there, I didn't get a clear understanding that there was ever 2 units of 2 different families or 2 different individuals in there. And it was never in the rental program that came about later, so I didn't understand how 2 units or 2 different individuals were in there at any given time.
There's such a long history, and my father, growing up in the house, they had multiple tenants at different times, and then at a certain point, the tenants were not allowed, so he could raise his family using both units.
Okay.
Then before I moved out, it went back to a rental, and there was at least 2 tenants in there when I was finishing up being 17 and 18, or 19 whenever I moved out.
2017 or 18?
No.
Okay.
My age.
Oh.
I don't remember exact year that I moved out.
Okay.
But, so my point is, there's such a history of the house being a 2-family, and I asked Amy, when did my father allow this 2-family to become a single-family residence, and the city couldn't prove that or give me any information on when that happened. I almost feel like I shouldn't be here today, that it should still be listed as a 2-family. That's very frustrating.
Okay.
May I approach you?
Sure.
Additional directories from 1928 and 1952 establishing that there were two residents there, 2 separate residents. So the history of the property seems to be pretty clear that 2 units have been there.
Any other questions from the board?
Nope.
Nope, I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you do a title search to see if this was how it was registered at one point?
Well, we can swear in Mr. DeWalt's son. He has significant ability to testify that. He's gone back to the plan maps as well, and if we swear him in, he can go ahead and...
Please.
She'll swear in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
I do.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name and give us an address as well, please.
Aaron DeWalt, AARON DEWALT.
Speak up a little bit there.
Sorry, Aaron DeWalt, AARONDE, capital WALT. My current address is 1704 West 6th Street. I live in the second floor of the building in question. So I did some research at the Blasco Library, and according to the 1917 Ferncliff subdivision plan map, which I have color photos of here, the parcel in question was originally 602 Lincoln in 1917. And the documents that Mr. Mitchell handed you from 1928 and 1952 will show an address of 602 Lincoln and 598 Lincoln, both occupied. The next door property, being 580 Lincoln at that time, was occupied by a Mr. Walker. If you fast forward in time into the 50s, where it has the two addresses of the property in question being 1704 West 6th Street and 546 Lincoln, Mr. Walker was still residing next door, which is now known as 538 Lincoln. So there's lots of documentation to verify that this house has had two people, two families, two units all the way back into the 20s, and I didn't go back further than that. So,
excuse me, did you say there's two addresses, 546 Lincoln and then West 6th Street address also?
Correct.
What's that address?
1704 West 6th Street. That's where I currently live. And that address has been active since at least 1956. I found records of it all the way back into 56 being used for multiple use cases. My grandfather purchased the property in 1961 with an active tenant at 1704 West 6th Street. He maintained that tenant and several other tenants to follow up into the mid to late 60s. Then, as stated, he raised a family, kicked the tenants out, utilized the upstairs with the common interior door that's still present at the moment, as a whole house to raise his family. As the kids grew up into the 70s and 80s, he rented the upstairs again, and I can't remember the exact dates off the top of my head, but he rented to an additional tenant that was not part of the family well into the 90s.
Aaron, are you receiving mail at 1704 West 6th Street?
I am.
It's registered with the USPS?
Yes, it is.
Let me say one thing about Lincoln Avenue. If you go down Lincoln, you can go down to 4th and Lincoln, there's rental properties down there. You can go up Lincoln to 8th, there's rental properties down there. I don't doubt that this has been a 2-unit for all along, so.
Yeah.
I'm sticking up for you.
Also, to answer to answer the earlier question about the egress situation, there is a secondary ladder from the second floor that folds down to the front porch that exits through a front door. So there's 2 escape routes.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move it along.
There are no further questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time, and we look forward to your decision.
No problem. Mr. Zimmerman, if I could call you up for a second, I have some questions for you. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Andy Zimmerman, Manager of Code Enforcement,
Thank you.
626 State Street.
Thank you. If you could give us a little background how you came to learn about 546.
It actually came through zoning.
Okay.
And then when we did a little bit of research, discovered that, and you'll have to correct me on dates, but back in 98, Mr. DeWalt changed it from a 2-family dwelling to a single-family dwelling.
Okay.
And then came back, I believe in 2013, to change it back to a 2-family dwelling, which the board then denied. And so our records indicate that it has been a single-family dwelling since then.
Since 2013?
Yes, okay. And never legally converted to a 2-family dwelling.
1990 is our official record. 1998 is the official record that we have.
Yes. So as of today, it is still considered a single-family dwelling.
Okay.
And never been permitted to change to a 2-family dwelling.
Any further questions?
I don't.
Thank you.
Before you step down, is there any cross-examination?
Yes, I did.
How you doing, Mr. Zimmerman?
Good, how are you?
My name is Kurt Mitchell. I represent the appellant in this matter. Up on the screen, there was a supposed zoning change. Do you remember that document?
That I do not. That will go through zoning.
I just want you to take a look at it. Now, if you look at that document, you don't see any sort of signature from the homeowner, do you?
No, you would not see that on a zoning certificate.
And do you have, my next question is, do you have the application that Mr. DeWalt allegedly signed requesting the zoning change?
Do we have the application?
The application from the original appeal? Absolutely.
No, the application requesting the alleged zoning change.
I do not have that.
So we have no idea whether Mr. DeWalt requested this zoning change, correct?
Okay, one second. See. Yeah, there's testimony that 2013. There's testimony in the 2013 appeal. I do believe. Give me 1 second.
Jay, can you rotate that so that we can actually see it? Thank you.
There is something that Mr. DeWalt, I believe Senior and Junior had both signed for that 2013 denial. Thank you. I'm having trouble with my back and forth. It would be on this document here. You'd like to copy for both of you? Yeah. This is the record.
Yeah, well, this is, again, the application regarding to permit a two-family unit. I'm talking about the original 1998 document.
No, that is what I have for the most current.
We don't know how this zoning came to be changed. Is that correct? Allegedly changed.
The only statement I would make, I'm Jake Welch, Chief Zoning Officer for the City of Erie. The zoning office would typically not generate a zoning certificate unless requested by the property owner. We wouldn't have just randomly done that. You are correct. We have no application with the owner's signature indicating that form was requested. But generally, the only time a zoning certificate is generated is when there's a change of use. And that typically we're asked to prepare that for the property owner.
But in this particular situation, you have no chain of custody. You have no idea whether those policies were followed or not, correct?
I don't have any evidence of the property owner's consent, but all I can tell you is that form is generally not prepared unless it's at the request
that's
of the
the key.
property owner.
That's the key word there, sir. Generally.
I would like to state that the countywide reassessments that I've gone through have also listed this home as a single-family dwelling. 2 of them. The 2003 countywide reassessment, which is an assessment record, and the 2013 record.
Again, that is city records and does not go to my client's intent of what he wanted to do with the property. So
That is how he's being assessed, though,
Amy.
as a single-family dwelling.
Amy, let's keep it one person at a time, okay?
Obviously, if the city is disputing the non-conforming pre-existing use, the burden is on the city to come forward with evidence of intention to change, to abandon the use and actual abandonment. I don't think they've come forward with any evidence establishing my client intended to abandon the two-family use. And certainly, the testimony here today shows that it's been, the upstairs haven't been gutted. There's still 2 furnaces. There's still 2 meters. So even if there was an intention, there hasn't been an actual abandonment of the 2-family use. Thank you.
Could you have your client step forward again so that we can, I've got a couple of additional questions for him. But Andy, do you want to finish something, or?
I would. When we see this, when it changes from a 2-family dwelling to a single-family dwelling, we are requested to do that so that the owner can save on their taxes, also their water bill, garbage. That's when we'll see elderly people come in and make that change.
Okay.
And I will.
Any further cross-examination, Mr. Zimmerman?
No.
Okay. For Andy, go ahead. Yes. For Mr. DeWalt, certainly. Yeah. If everybody's done.
Yes.
With Andy.
Yes, we're done with Andy.
Okay, Andy, go ahead. Thank you.
Mr. DeWalt, if your intent was to always have a 2-family unit, you are aware that the city does have a rental inspection program and registration program, correct?
I just became aware of that recently.
So if that was the intent, why did you not register with the program?
I'm not at that place yet. I wanted to be, but because of the confusion, I'm held up.
He has no electric. The city stopped. The city entered a stop work order. He has no electric. It's not able to be, it's not habitable at this point until we resolve this issue in the stop work order.
Mr. DeWalt.
Thank you.
Let me ask you just a couple of quick questions to follow up very briefly on that. You've been back in the property you inherited in 2019?
Correct, February
2019. And when did you first take in more than just your family into the home?
Just recently.
Okay.
Because
how recently?
In the past couple weeks, but it's just family. My niece and my son.
Are you charging anybody rent?
No.
Okay. The information that we have here from back in 2013 has, I believe, signatures on it from both you and your father. Do you remember that from 2013?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember what that application was for, why that application was submitted?
Because, well, it's twofold. One, my mom passed away. He found some nurse. He wanted her to live in, take care of him for the rest of his life till he died. And she wanted a lease. And so I tried to help my dad out. He couldn't drive much. So I got involved to try to help him out, get the house to a 2-family, or back to a 2-family, or acknowledged that it was still a 2-family, whatever you want to call it. So that's why I was involved with that. I didn't show up for that hearing because I didn't think I needed to. Just let him come by himself. He got a ride to here and a ride home that day. But that was why I was involved, just to help him out.
But I mean, you signed off as his agent, correct?
Yeah, I didn't know very much what I was doing, to be honest. I was just trying to help.
How old were you in 2013?
2013? I guess maybe I should rephrase the question. I wasn't too familiar with the process of real estate within the city of Erie at that time in my age. So I was just trying to do my best to help him out.
Okay. But you understood. I mean, I'm trying to get a sense of things here, because there are two aspects of this, right? I mean, your attorney is arguing that this is a special exception or a pre-existing non-conforming condition. Sorry about that. Non-conforming use. So if that's the case, then you've got to show continuous use as a two-family unit, okay, for that period of time. You can have a non-conforming use that is abandoned, right? And then the second part is you're asking for a current variance. Okay, you're asking for a current use variance if that non-conforming use doesn't apply, all right? So I'm trying to first establish or understand whether or not the non-conforming use is still applicable, okay? When your father filed this appeal with you signing off as his agent back in 2013, did you understand that he was going to the city and asking for permission for this to again be a two-family unit?
That's a difficult to answer. I suppose yes.
Okay.
I mean, why wouldn't it be? But I didn't know the depth of the legality of any of it.
I'm not asking you for a legal opinion. I'm just asking you for your understanding if at that point in time your father had in his mind an understanding that this was no longer a two-family unit and he needed to come to the city to get permission for it to be a two-family unit again.
Now I understand what you're trying to convey. Yeah, he never. It was almost like a surprise to him, or it was never in his mind a single-family home. It was always two-family. It was never deconstructed physically.
Yeah, that's not the issue. That's not the question. So if that was your understanding as to his belief at that point in time, do you have any understanding as to why he would go through this process?
I think just to appease the city.
How would the city even know?
He was renting it. He was renting it. I don't think he was trying to be dishonest to try.
Was there any appeal taken from the denial of that application?
No.
I have nothing further.
I had a question for Andy again, or Jake. Within the city, there are several units that were duplexes, and because of the zoning, some of those units were zoned as single families. Are you aware of that, or you're unaware of that?
A duplex? Yes. A duplex, depending on the dividing wall, could be a single-family dwelling instead of a two-unit. That all depends on your demising wall between the units.
Okay. Was this ever zoned differently, to your knowledge?
That I would need to defer to Jake Welsh.
Was it ever zoned as a duplex? Or was it always a single family and zoning came later?
No, based on our records, the property was used as a two-family dwelling. It was recognized as a two-family dwelling. When you look at the construction and the fact that the building, the upstairs and downstairs, you do have a common interior access. The only separation is a door. In the zoning world, technically the setup of the building is still as a single-family dwelling because the entire interior of the building can be accessed up and down. If that door was replaced by a wall, then the zoning would recognize it as a two-family dwelling. So regardless of whether it had a separate address and had a separate border, because you can have up to 2 borders in a single-family dwelling where you're renting a portion of the house, but if the house is still integrated on the interior, then it can be recognized as a single-family dwelling, even though it may be addressed as a 2-unit. But the other thing that was apparent from the zoning record was that that 2-unit had been voluntarily abandoned by the owner, who requested it be reclassified as a single-family dwelling. So it's lost its non-conforming status.
No. He's gonna testify how he's gonna testify. We understand your argument. You don't get, you know better. You don't get to object to somebody's testimony just because you disagree with it.
I'm not. He already testified he has no proof that my client requested a zoning change. And then he just said my client voluntarily changed the zoning.
He didn't say anything about your client. He was talking about your client's father.
Client's father. I misspoke.
So just to continue, as far as our interpretation of the record, based on what the record says, we have that zoning certificate on file. We have testimony from 2013 that indicates that the property owner recognized that he had the property reclassified as a single-family dwelling and was attempting to get it reverted back to a two-family dwelling. There was absolutely history of its use as a two-family dwelling, but also based on the record, it had been converted back to a single. Doesn't matter whether it's physically converted. In my opinion, because there's a door and not a wall separating the upstairs and downstairs, technically that building is still set up as a single-family dwelling.
Thank you.
Andy, I've got a couple of questions for you real briefly. The work that the stop order was put in on, what specifically was being done that caused any attention to be drawn to the situation?
That would fall back to change of use from a single family to a two-family and electrical work.
So right now, is there one electrical meter on the house?
Currently, yes, but I believe two-meter socket was installed, possibly three, I'm not sure. I would need our electrical inspector to confirm that.
And do you know natural gas, water, any other metered services?
On utilities.
Okay. Mr. DeWalt, can you tell us if there are how many meters are set up right now for each of those?
There's always 2 gas meters, always 2 electric meters. When my dad was raising us as a family, somehow the 2 meters went to 1 meter. I don't know how that happened. There's 2 water meters. We have photographs. I don't know if he gave them to you already, but the point, now that you guys asked me a question earlier, and now I'm thinking this through, because this has dragged on for weeks and months. I came down here and got a permit for electrical upgrade because it was old and it needed to be upgraded. And I was granted a permit, and I was in the middle of getting 2 electric meters and even a third house meter possibly, or a meter for a garage, for a hobby, and maybe a kiln or a weld or something like that, which we were told you're allowed. So there's a 3-meter socket on the house right now that was fully inspected by Sam and Pennsylvania State electrical inspector on top of that. And what happened was somehow the city put a stop work order on the one door. So that's kind of what started this whole thing rolling. I just was assuming you could get your permit, do your upgrades, and get everything approved and, stamp of approval, inspected, whatever, and then proceed and to move forward as a 2-family and get it, whatever that takes.
Code enforcement is different than zoning. So right now, how many electrical bills come to the house?
Just 1 right now.
How many gas bills come to the house?
2.
Okay. How many water bills come to the house? 2. Okay. And how long has that been happening?
How long has what been happening?
That you've just gotten 1 electrical bill?
I'm not sure. Years.
Okay. What about the gas? You've gotten 2 gas bills for how many years?
That's got to be, that I don't know, because that was probably before I was born. There was 2 gas meters there.
Okay.
So
And does one come to 546 Lincoln and the other come to 1704 West 6th?
I had the one mailed to my house in Fairview because there was nobody living in the bottom. That's why there was a long duration. My parents passed away, and my brothers and I, it's just taken us years and years to go through their stuff. That's why there was a lag or a drag in this continuation process. We just now recently got all their stuff out of that house and into the garage. So it's just been an ongoing process.
When did your father pass?
Yeah, 2019 of October.
Now, your mom passed in 2013, right?
I believe so, yeah, about 5 years before that.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Lord, I do have information that was provided from the electrical inspector, if you would like to see that.
Why don't you bring it up and show and let appellant's counsel take a look at it first.
It's coming directly from Cadillac.
I just have a couple of questions for the zoning officer whenever anybody's ready.
Please. Aaron, were you at the hearing in 2013? I was not present. So, but are you the grandson in question that they allowed to move in 2013?
Yes.
Okay, so you were aware that your grandmother was using the studio before there was an art studio that was upstairs?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
And so then they were allowing you to move in then in 2013, and it was no longer going to be used as an art studio, but allowing you to move in upstairs, correct?
Yeah, she passed
Okay.
away by that point.
Right. And Mr. Mitchell, as the legal representation there, did you read the findings of fact from the last hearing? Okay, so you did your due diligence in reading this and seeing what was said in testimony?
Yeah, I read it.
Okay.
And
Just
there
making
was-
sure, because in there that they agreed to do the single family so that his grandson could move in, and that was that's why we're here today. And so I just don't want us to continue to keep beating a dead horse,
No, I'm not
because we keep saying the same thing over and over again, but this was entered into, and finding the facts and you being legal representation, this is entered in as testimony.
I'm aware of that, but at no point did he say, I intended to abandon the two-unit use.
He did. That's what it says in the findings of facts.
What
It
he said
says
is he
that.
was told in order to receive a tax break, he needed to rezone the property. But I agree, testimony's done on that. I have a very important question regarding zoning
I also have one more
certificates.
statement regarding utilities.
Okay, well, let him ask you the question first. And incidentally, just so we're clear, Amy, would you go ahead and be sworn in?
Yes, sorry, thought it was automatically. Amy Francis, 626 State Street.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
Absolutely.
Ms. Francis, it's true that the city has a specific policy regarding decommissioning multi-unit homes, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's true that that policy, before the zoning certificate can be issued, which you presented here today, there must be removal of all kitchens.
That is correct.
Has the kitchen been removed here?
We have not been inspected. We have not inspected it at this time.
Okay.
So I would not know if there's two kitchens other than the pictures that were provided.
Water lines must be capped by a licensed plumber. Has that been done here?
I don't have any plumbing permits on file.
So that's a no.
No.
Okay. All utility meters must equal the number of dwelling units being requested. Was that done here?
Was it being requested? I'm sorry, can you repeat?
All utility meters must equal the number of units being requested.
That's correct.
Okay. How many meters does this house have?
As far as I know, there's only one working electrical meter.
How many
I do
guess?
know that the water meter was denied. They checked with us first, and that's how this came about.
Okay. But there's photos, and my client testified that he pays 2 water bills, he pays 2 gas bills, right? And you have nothing to rebut that, correct?
I do have something to about that, actually. I do have, the first conversation that came about was from Erie Waterworks. They called zoning, they checked the county website, and they noticed it was a single-family dwelling. They have denied a second water meter. They will not put one in unless we say it's a 2-unit. And that's how this case came about originally.
You guys want to come over and see?
We can go turn the water on.
Are they working
if we
meters?
want to take a field
I
trip.
guess would be the question. They have not turned one on as far as I know.
I think that's kind of irrelevant.
Well, no, it's not.
No, it's very relevant.
So, and then finally, smoke alarms must be installed and maintained at all of the following locations: ceiling, wall, outside. Do you know if any of those things were done?
That would be one of our building inspector's tasks, is to go through and check all of that stuff.
Okay.
After this is corrected.
No, we're talking about the zoning change in 1990.
That is a building inspector change, and I get the change for it and send it over to
May I
assessment.
approach? May I approach?
Laura.
He wants to approach.
Come on up.
Does this look like your policy regarding zoning changes?
This isn't our form that we're using right now.
No, it's copied and pasted off of your website, but does that look like your policy?
Removal of the sink, water. Yes, but again, this is something the
That's not
building
my
inspector
Let her
needs
answer the
to.
question.
This is something the building inspector goes and inspects and reports back to me, and I make the zoning change.
Okay, so where is that paperwork from that building inspector in 1998 before you made the zoning change?
I was not
that
present
said-
in 1998, so I cannot tell you that wasn't.
And you agree that my client testified that most of these things have not been done?
From his testimony, yes.
Nothing further.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, that policy was placed by me approximately 10 years ago. What Councilman Kwiatkowski at the time discovered, a lot of people were just getting zone certificate and not doing anything else. So he came to me and said, we need to fix this, so we verified that a plumber's been utilized, that there's one furnace or heating HVAC. That was changed approximately 10 years ago in that range.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you Mr. Zimmerman?
No, yeah.
I have a question for Mr. Zimmerman.
Would you let your counsel ask the question simply because you're represented here?
We have nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You can have a seat, please. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone online? Can assume no. Anyone else to speak in favor? Okay. Anyone here in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Okay, we will move on to the last appeal.
Okay. Ms. Travis, come on up. This is appeal number 12293 by Elizabeth Travis on behalf of Thomas Hammer. She does have documentation that she's provided that she is representing him as his agent. I can show that to you on the board. I did not want to publish that.
I have it with me too.
Thank you. This is concerning a property located at 2803 West 28th Street, index 18-5017-111. Located in an R1A traditional single-family residential district, the appellant is requesting a special exception approval for short-term rental. Per section 204-11, special exception approval is required. Congratulations, you're our first short-term rental.
Well, thank you. And thank you for all of your assistance through this.
You're
It's
welcome.
been quite a process.
It's been a
Could you
challenge,
state your
but
name
we've
and
got
address,
it.
please, and be sworn in?
Elizabeth Travis, 169 Doan Lane, Reynoldsville, PA 15851.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability here today?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I am just requesting to be able to use my father's residence as a short-term rental. We just recently came in contact with my father and have taken over his affairs, and he is in a dementia facility near. I moved him from excuse me, from his house in Erie to Clearfield, which is closer. I'm from Reynoldsville. It's about 2 hours away. His care is quite expensive, but I would really like to be able to keep the house so that I can bring my family here. And the only way for me to do that is because we want to come quite often, but if I could rent it out occasionally for a weekend or something, just to keep the bills, the water bill, the taxes, what have you. And then I could keep the house, hopefully. We're not intending to rent it out a lot. I want to be able to use it more than rent it, but I'm just going to need to rent it to be able to keep it, I think.
So relative to the short-term rental ordinance, you are a designated responsible agent for the property?
Okay, yes. I found a company, Evolve, and I have a thing I printed up here, will be the first point of contact. The second point of contact is our contractor, Sergei Kriveski, and I don't know if his address and everything is up there. And then the third point of contact is Jennifer Myers, who lives about 2 blocks away from there.
So the actual responsible agent is the company that you mentioned, or is Mr. Krevsky?
Well, Krevsky, because he lives right there. The company that's actually going to help me with it is not local, yes.
Also, relative to short-term rentals, there are a number of items that need to be satisfied.
Okay.
First and foremost, a screen planting strip.
Now that is something I have asked every person I have spoken to through this entire process, and we haven't been able to get anyone to explain to us what that is.
And I will apologize. We missed each other in phone calls yesterday. I was a little busy, so I wanted to re-explain to her a fence, a hedge, something that is a barrier for the property for those R districts. And is there a fence on the property? That's what I was going to check with you.
So, I don't know if there's, I don't know what you're showing up there, if there's a picture or whatever, but there's a fence the whole way behind the house. There's a small fence to the right where the little bit of the yard is, and then the rest of it is buried, or yeah, you can see.
Yes.
Like sidewalk along the front, sidewalk along the side. There's a fence that goes the whole way along the back of the house.
Thank you, Jake.
And then there's a small, it's just a fence with some some plants and things on the right side between that house and the house beside us. So we're not sure exactly what else we need to do, if there's something else
And
that
I
needs.
told her, we'll help you work through that and make sure that's acquired, as this is the first one we're all going through.
In that same realm, you're familiar with the outdoor lighting requirements?
Yes.
Okay. And then also no loudspeakers or something?
Yes, yep, and I have that all printed up in a paper to put on the, I have a bulletin board in the kitchen where I'll have all that stuff.
And many of those things go through right to our licensing department. They will do that double check, that will have to provide proof and evidence that all of those things are in the home as they are required. One additional thing for her occupancy, originally it was stated at 18. This will fall back on a building code issue as well.
And I had no idea.
Right, so she had added a couple more rooms. I did a couple quick calculations, and her final occupancy number is 12.
Okay.
Which is a good size for this home. Those kinds of things will also be checked by our code officers, building inspectors, just part of the process. So everybody's understanding this is just the special exception, just as one small step to getting a license for short-term rental. So this is how this will work. 4 to 5, based on a 10 by 20 size
And there's a
parking
two-car
spot.
garage as well.
Well, along with the garage, we'll push her up to the 7.
And just for the record, you are aware that that is off-street parking only?
Yes.
7 with the garage parking, correct.
Any other questions from the board?
Just real briefly, how many beds, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms?
There are 2.5 bathrooms and 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms.
Okay. And the baths are full or half?
A full bath upstairs, a full bath downstairs, and then a half bath in the 1 bedroom.
I see.
Much bigger than it looks from the outside.
Yeah.
Will you be doing like a minimum stay, like number of nights stay for requirements?
We haven't exactly, because I can't go forward totally with some of my things until I, got permission from you guys to do your thing. So it's probably going to be, at least a weekend rent or several days. I probably won't do just a 1 day or 2 day or, because we want to be able to use it as much as possible. So I really don't want it to be occupied a lot. I just want to, like I said, bring in a little bit of revenue to keep it.
Okay.
No? Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor? No? Anyone in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? No. Okay. We are going to adjourn for a very brief executive session. Thank you for your patience. It's been a long afternoon. We'll be right back. Thank you again for your patience. Amy, could you call the roll for a vote on appeal number 12290, please?
Yes. Ms. King?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Gunchen?
Yes.
The vote has passed. Congratulations. If you guys want to hang out a second, I can guide you through the next steps after we're finished.
We're going to the
Yeah, go.
420 West 6th Street appeal?
Yep.
Ms. King?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
3-0 vote. The vote has passed.
And one abstention.
Oh, I'm sorry. Laura is
Ms.
an
Gunchen.
abstention. Sorry. I have that noted.
Amy, please call a roll for appeal number 12292.
Okay. Ms. King?
No.
Mr. Dawson?
No.
Mr. Johnson?
No.
Ms. Gunchen?
No.
The use variance has been denied.
And relative to the denial today, the argument that the pre-existing non-conforming use, at this point, the board feels was abandoned in 1998 and then subsequently after. Furthermore, there has been no hardship relative to the use of the property that has been demonstrated today. Unfortunately, the board cannot consider an economic hardship relative to hardship criteria. May you please call the roll for appeal number 12293.
Yes. Ms. King?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Gunchen?
Yes.
Congratulations, short-term rental. That is your appeal. Thank you, everyone.
And with that, we will adjourn for today. Thank you.